basically, I'm truly convinced that a person will make for an inadequate social scientist or person who claims to know the workings of the human mind and behavioral science. They're genuinely into the study of conflicts and, essentially getting to truth. Truth is what they want to get at. Their every method, if they're also simultaneously a religious believer involved in the church, then their methods of either cannot be critical enough to demonstrate that they are justified and correct and that's right, that they should be doing what they're doing, or else they would judge their own religion as untrue and rule it out. But then there'd be no motivation for them to ever attend their church, and in fact they would be opposed to what the churches do, so far as they teach you to be too presumptuous, to make assumptions just on the basis of silence. So yeah, I think the combined motives of a social scientist and a religious believer at the same time is just ridiculous. It's just a conflict on their behalf, because they're essentially going from one group and celebrating these pufta supernatural beliefs, and then they're going, now we're social scientists, let's find out what's true about this person's mind, and they think they're geniuses. If they applied their analytical method to their religious beliefs, then their religious beliefs would have no truth to them anymore. So yeah, you can expect therefore that they'll come up with really, really stupid profiles. You're deranged because of a Nintendo cartridge, Mario Kart from 1992. It's made you mental for the rest of your life, unfortunately. Claims like that, the video has made you insane. The Nintendo Game Boy has made you so dangerous even you don't know it. These sorts of claims can only come from the minds of religious people. People with really stupid beliefs elsewhere in life, celebrating stupid beliefs. It doesn't impress me anymore that it should be that they like the devil better than God, because I grew out of that question, who do you prefer, God or the devil? That either or, I outgrew that in about 17. Neither exist. So it's a pointless question. That's how these men work as researchers, though. They tend to think that unless you have a proactive, positive, demonstrated favour for something or someone, then you must be against that something or someone. It's an imposed either or attitude that I have never fully identified with, because when I studied the Age of Enlightenment and its contribution to philosophy, I liked how they were saying things like about evolution at the time. They didn't have the means to truly prove that evolution was empirically true. They didn't have enough technology, but they had the working theory. So the creationists were still fighting them then, of course, and they had to admit that though we can't prove evolution is truly true yet, it's the best explanation of the two. And even if all we had was your creation story, the most we might have to say is, well, we haven't got the right account yet, so we'll suspend judgment and wait until there's a better explanation. So the concept of the suspension of judgment was really celebrated during the centuries of the Age of Enlightenment. And that's what these Freemasons, Gary and Roger, don't get that at all. So like, they've got this wacky, for or against thing going on. You might just want to put certain people out of your consideration altogether. So yeah, basically, I'm sure what you'll find if you were to read the theological stories of the Freemasons' religion, you'll find that there's no narrative or account of where Lucifer sits down and watches video or TV. So they therefore have decided that they think a profile saying that a citizen can be mentally ill for the rest of their life due to video or TV is an innovative and potentially accurate profile for them to endorse. It's not very clever. I probably would do a better job than they do. Because if you praise supernatural beings that don't exist, and you're into profiling in healthcare, then you might come up with profiles that don't exist. And that's the price you pay for being a religious toss. So, research yourselves. So, in their capacity as researchers, Roger Toll and Gary Cairns just continue to assume, without admitting to error, that sitting back in silence, being fed by silence and observing a situation in silence is going to ultimately lead them to the discovery of true conflict. What that means is, in the back of their minds, they haven't admitted that their judgment is convoluted and conflicted because they haven't turned against religious belief systems and the Freemason Church. So they're actually, as they're trying to be scientists, going, well, we're studying this person, we're going to find conflict soon. But all that's happening in their heads is, they keep thinking if there's silence, like if you don't talk, if you go, then they'll assume they're about to discover a conflict. Now the conflict is in their heads. The conflict is their religious belief. They haven't destroyed it, they haven't outsmarted it, they haven't outgrown it, they haven't rejected it, they haven't falsified it, they haven't disproved it, they haven't opposed it. So if Roger Toll and Gary Cairns truly can't tolerate that this is the 21st century, Freemasonry started in the 16th century, and it's still stupid as religious thinkers were in the 16th century. So they should go either back to their Freemason church and pretend it's the 16th century, or they should totally quit this research for conflict. Oh, there's silence, we must be about to catch a conflict. It's like, dickheads. Your judgment of what's what in society is truly convoluted because you've invested in the faith-based belief system of a faggoty church from the 16th century. So, yeah. Oh, we're about to catch a conflict. We're about to catch a conflict. Dickheads. Dickhead Freemasons. Also, if Gary and Roger want to come forward and say, I would accept their challenge. If they want to claim I don't know enough about Freemasonry to dispute it, I would debate them anytime. They can tell me what they think is important about it. I've made certain statements in principle about why I wouldn't accept any form of theism. Because I did estimate in some concern a long time ago that if you believe in the existence of a character that doesn't exist, you might disrespect people that do exist in ways that you don't have the manners to truly think about. So yeah, the imagination's great, it's important, but and that's one reason I'm against churches, is because I think the imagination's more important. It's offended by the notions of like theistic faith. The imagination's too precious to squander by investing it in a church where what is real and what is a lie is only going to be convoluted every time you attend your church. So if they want to say what they think Freemasonry has discovered that's of such great importance, and they want to tell me about that, I probably know more about academic opinions of texts, ancient texts, that than they do, based on what I know so far about their religion. So yeah, Freemasonry has their ability to judge the human mind so convoluted. You could be wanting solitude in a time of suffering, and they'll contact you unwantedly, saying, "Well, just come out. We just want you to come out of the closet, come out." And you'll be genuinely suffering and wanting to be alone. And even then, they want to think and talk along, sexually themed lines. Even then, and they work in healthcare, and they want to contact you when you're in pain and suffering, and say, "Oh, just come out. We'll support you. Gay people have rights now." You're like, what the fuck is wrong with you idiots? But yeah. Yeah, what I should have said at the time was, "Roger, do not contact me in violation of the Privacy Act, because I'm aware that your religion has given you a barbaric temper and a stupid eye for the assessment of conflicts and contention in society. So, and if you violate," he agreed at the time not to bother me in violation of the Privacy Act. That was at Hughes some years before the start of this decade. But yeah, I sort of now understand why they do what they do and why they think the way they think. It's disgusting. It involves pedophilic thoughts on their behalf, as I've worked out. They'll be fascinated with getting involved in these straw man cases, where they try to invent, in good faith of course, they'll invent and try to pin on you a case that they're too chicken to say we will discuss this at the magistrate's court. They're too chicken for that, but they want to insist that their case on you is relevant and not a feat of religious discrimination on their behalf. Freemasons out to falsely diagnose the world. Great. Yeah, so for some reason, the reality, the real world, observing the real world. Additionally, both Gary and Roger would stand to develop, to create more elaborate and comprehensive vocabularies, capacity for the choice of and use of words. They'd know what that's like in a non-16th century way. If you watch the way that both of them talk, basically, you can just see them wearing sort of 16th century hats and suits, and they're out of time, really. Or they would go, "No, it's so inappropriate for us to think we can identify psychological conflicts, because we don't even have a single argument to defend the veracity of our religious beliefs. So we don't deserve to have the right to get involved in social science studies, because the question, what is truth, is convoluted with a fuckload of religious discrimination." So, they want to call me a canary, a pencil pusher, name terms like that, because of how I can write, and my lifelong admiration for literature. you end up working out more or less every citizen does have some sort of philosophy that they'll reduce everything else they do uh, in relation to these philosophical terms in which they think. So if you step back and spend more time in pursuing the studies of what other philosophies people can consider, you essentially, it's a great process because you watch yourself mature into someone who gets along with almost anyone from it, pretty much anyone from any walk of life. And like, instead of being a believer in some church, you now comprehend 1,001 different philosophies, but you're not a follower of any, and you get along with everyone that you meet. So these Freemasons have no idea about that. Where I've worked out they're dangerous is that if you're simply a rights defender in the 21st century with long hair, they'll think you're a gay martyr. Just because of those two facts. Them as researchers, they know they're illegal, so all you have to do is be able to describe their means, and you can have them sued. They want to think that their research initiatives are backed by some higher ideal, but all they have to indicate is their Freemason beliefs. So if they were researching to try to work out what truth is, they would go, along the way they'd go, well, Freemasonry isn't true, it's fucking stupid, we look like a couple, look at us going into the pharmacies with our socks pulled up like bestiality, sheep fucking male pattern baldness, circle, grey haired, fucking couple of tosses, shorts and the socks pulled right up. And yeah, they pretty much don't have the right to legally contact another citizen, try and tell them what's what. We know what's what. We know what matters. You don't know what matters. You know of a 16th century religion that you think gave you an edge, a worldwide edge, and that now you're the arbiters of what's what. But you genuinely can't have a conversation about what's what without inevitably falsifying. So what I think is possible is that this appeal to Masonic theology for Roger. He likes the stories where Lucifer outsmarts, destroys, outwits the Christian God. So maybe this moment of his in Tasmania that he doesn't want to mention, he doesn't like how and why his father told him off. For whatever it is, I have no idea. But if he's so adamant that gay people are gay because of something between them and their mother, and he comes from Tasmania but now operates a business on the mainland, if that's his view of all gay people, no. I think it was something between him and his mother. His father told him off for something, and he hates the reasoning of his father. So he likes going to the Mason church because stories and theologies about the Lucifer defeating the Christian God make him feel better. It could only make him feel better if something got him down. It's ultimately why anyone goes to a church. So I'm not claiming to know what his issue was. I'm just saying this is how it seems, because he hasn't wanted to outsmart the Masonic church. It serves an interest to him of some kind. But when he's profiling people, he says like, I own poofs. So when he nominates you to be one of his poofs and he makes a profile, like, it should be so cleverly designed that the person loves their own profile. Instead it's so shit. It's worse than what a Christian would come up with, trying to say, you need our church because of this, this, this. The Christians would do better. Um, hmm. So additionally, as I think it's also because of their Freemason beliefs that Gary Cairns and Roger still think they have license to single out a given citizen and say, well, it might look like they're medicating pain and suffering, but actually they're just drug addicted junkies. It's only really their religion that. It's a bit like how the Christian church has disciples. They try to make disciples. I think these Freemasons are trying to make well, they make after their own kind, right? So they're trying to make idiots because they haven't admitted that Freemasonry is a form of idiocy. So they want to like Xerox their idiocy onto society and say, no, you don't have a headache. You're a drug addict instead. It doesn't make any sense, and that's, I think, their equivalent. Like the Christians try to make you a disciple of Christ or a weekend warrior for Christ, and these Freemasons try to make you like the court jester. Um, yeah, it's like yeah, they'll want to mock and make fun of and ridicule innocent bystanders, and then they'll go and stand by the assertions and claims and teachings of this 16th century church, not question it, not challenge it, not oppose it, and not conclude that it's bullshit. Instead, they want to lump and levy those sorts of indictments on the citizenry. So it is very comparable to a Christian conversion initiative, where they'll be willing to undermine rights so that they can try to make you a believer of some kind, a theist and a disciple of some kind. No one can tell you how you feel, obviously, and no one can tell you what you're going through better than you. So if they prey on someone's already suffering, it's just pointless. Like, you don't know why, you can't comprehend why they would want to do what they're doing, unless it is that on a personal level they haven't admitted to themselves that they should be mocking that church rather than attending it and enjoying it. Because in going to it and being part of the Freemason church, they become fools themselves. But if they are in denial of their own folly, that's why, like, when I make fiction, or I've made fictitious parodies and satires in the past on camera phones, and like Gary and Roger thought that was the real me when I was acting in fictitious and contrived, preconceived, full frontal inspired, Sean McAuliffe inspired theatrical roles. And Gary and Roger couldn't tell the difference, having snaked them and viewed them. They couldn't tell they thought because they flogged those video clips that they'd caught the real me behind the scenes. But you need to catch your own church. Like, catch your church out as a heap of ideological crap. The 16th century is the idealism from the 16th century is long overturned. No one cares really about it anymore. So being members of a church known to be really secretive, it doesn't make you geniuses. It doesn't make you smarter than everyone else. It doesn't make you the arbiters of other people's lives or health rights. So maybe if the Freemasons perhaps the Freemasons have the wrong idea about what the Antichrist is. I think that they presume it to be affiliated with devil worship and Satanism. Um, there is there are sort of two types of Satanism. There's theistic Satanism. Um, I got tremendously sick of theism in my teens. Theism is when you posit an existing being that you believe in. It could be a god, it could be a devil. So, there's non-theistic Satanism, and that's where Satan is a word for opponent. It just means that you challenge points of view and question things, question ideas. It's not a belief in the existence of a devil. In fact, you'll say the devil does not exist. That's a Christian claim or a Freemason claim. So yeah, we didn't worm our way out of church just to pronounce the existence of another being elsewhere. We recognized their errors all too clearly. The error is theism in general and supernaturalism in general, I think. Try to challenge my own theory and destroy it if I can. If this works, I think there was the experiment at Waniasa Capital Chemist where Roger did the stay-free pad absorption test where he wore a heavily absorbent stay-free pad and tried to see if it calmed him down, his temper, enough to successfully convince more patients that non-cross-licensed generic brands, perhaps comprised of different binders, that nonetheless pass bioequivalence tests should be, they should be enthusiastic about the brand substitution. Roger would have a lot of excitement when it comes to, especially with generics that he's invested in bulk purchases and stocked up tons of shelves full of product after product at the what was the Capital Chemist warehouse behind the Waniasa Pharmacy. So, in his enthusiasm to push and move generic stock, staff were finding that he was soiling himself certain times. He just wanted to see, feel sorry for him. He wanted to see it all play out. So, patients can be, they engage in that debate. Is this really the same drug, even though the same medicine, even though it's a different brand? And Roger can only explain it so many times before his temper flares. So he'd realized that if he wore a stay-free, extra absorbent pad for his heavy flow days, then he could counsel more patients to accept non-cross-licensed generics, and also not lose his temper with cross-licensed generics, where he knows that he's been to the plant and seen them come off the conveyor belt, and one sheet goes into the premium brand packet and the other sheet goes into the generic brand packet, and he knows they're exactly the same. So it'd feel like ringing the heads of some of the patients. I've fucking seen them come from the same. I can't do his high-pitched voice. My voice actually broke during puberty. But with the stay-free pad on, Roger had the support and the absorption, so he could concentrate on counseling customers to truly discover the wonders and joys. Because it's a wonderland of sorts. The
the culture of brand substitution. People think, you know, traveling to Greece, the UK, or climbing as rock, Kosciuszko, traveling in an air balloon, all these sorts of activities, you know, have certain therapeutic effect on the mind, and they help man to get reaccustomed to nature, and you know, challenge one's physical fitness, mental alertness. But you know, you can then you step back and you weigh it up. You go back to the store, doing store work, and you're like, well, yeah, there are these sorts of escapades. You know, mountain climbing, but compared to wearing a stay-free, heavy flow, extra absorbent maxi pad, so that you can talk at a calm rate, and just feel that absorbent, feel the support in your shorts, socks pulled up, like you know, like you're watching all those young boys at Morris College. But you wear your pad and you talk to those patients and you tell them, you know, it's spoken right and articulated, with a certain amount of finesse and attentiveness and sympathy and empathy. Patients of sound mind with a sense of fairness are 9 out of 10 times extremely likely to be thankful for the brand substitution and all the efforts Roger has gone to ensure that there's ample supplies of brand substitutionary options in the Capital Chemist warehouse. And but yeah, that was another before Roger came up with this idea of video schizophrenia. That was something he was doing, I think, a comparative study. You know, is it more soul soothing to drive around in an expensive car, or you know, just to man the counter, offer the generic brand, and keep a real grip on one's temper and demeanor and disposition. It's not always necessary to tell the patient that you know, you're comfortable as a man to be wearing a stay-free, heavy flow, extra absorbent maxi pad. I mean, a lot of patients are very understanding of that, and if they assist Roger with sales skills, he used to call me Cool Hand Luke, and while I wouldn't affix a pad to him myself, just from the way he spoke to me while I was underage, as a grown man with gloves, and possibly on ketamine, maybe I'd have affixed the pad. Maybe I would have just chucked him the packet of the pad and he can wear it himself. It's just, I've never really wanted to catch him on any of his heavy flow days.
Judy, you must know I only martyr them because I care, because I know from the 16th century. And yeah, so for being, if they accost you in the name of their religious discrimination in violation of the Privacy Act, it can take years before you have that as definitive proof. Their concerns about you are all just, I mean, I don't even know how to drive a fucking car yet. And I probably would have learned if it weren't for them. Don't make you too concerned about touching your own balls. Freemason faggots. And then their next move is, are you some sort of Christian? Because they think being from the 16th century means, you know, you'd only want to oppose them if you were some sort of Christian. Because they think they got the Christians outsmarted. And they don't think that the 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th and 21st century has all of them outsmarted. Fucking cock suckers. Once again, Gary, you have an invitation. Knock on my door. Knock on my fucking door. Fairy Queen cans.
Come and see St. Philip's Anglican Church. We have, it seems, an ungutted church. I might try and request the opportunity to engage in a discussion or debate with the pastor here. St. Philip's O'Connor.org.au. And that's an additional weird trait about Roger in particular, and Gary too, is that they don't genuinely comprehend. I don't know at what point in their career it went to their heads that they think the sick people of Canberra see them in like an idolatrous manner and or think that they're like a godsend and personally praise them or something. Because I couldn't imagine taking advantage of a person in a compromised state of health and insisting they have some undeniable fascination or interest with them as people, or even their company. I think they even kick up too much of a stink over substances, because they'll at times try to be like the litigators of substance use, as if the patient isn't allowed to say how sick they feel, and as also as if they're dealing, Columbia grade cocaine from their chemists, that they're not just shitty pills. It's like going to the chemist to get a scripts done is not it is not getting high, it is not getting chemically enhanced, it is not getting your rocks off, it is not recreational, it's not even enjoyable. But it is something that's more real than the supernatural teachings of the Freemason Church. That's what I've always noticed, and I learnt this as an atheist debating on forums online. I learnt it very quickly, is that the person who gets by as an unbeliever and holds their ground in debates and arguments against the religious pause, and like from your point of view, they're just getting fed by irrational silence, and they're being irrational about it because they don't accept the logistics of your arguments and go, oh, okay. And they go, well, I'm not prepared to come forward and say my religion's full of shit. But what? And then, so the result is they go on being an idiot. And they go on like the ways that flies gravitate towards illuminated light bulbs on the ceiling, they'll gravitate towards unbelievers. Thinking, oh, what is it about them? What is it about them? It's like, well, we don't even want to know you, but we can tell you what it's not about us, and it's that we don't believe in stupid 16th century poofter religions, to use your term that you like to throw around so much. I don't want to stoop myself to their level and use the word poofter, but yeah, they do not comprehend that. Like, if they were to hack this phone and monitor this recording, they won't be able to comprehend that I actually don't want to meet or talk to either one of them in person right now in real life myself. I'm wishing I didn't have the memories from the years that I actually did work for them. So they would break my privacy and go, well, we're just checking in on Luke. No, you're just breaking the Privacy Act again. We're just checking because we believe we care. Take your faith, go back to the 16th century. You're both fucking embarrassing people. You're embarrassing people to know. I'm embarrassed your names exist in my vocabulary. You're fucking idiots. So they also don't comprehend the ethic. I know when you if you really, really wrong someone personally, you back off as a first gesture of courtesy. That you're prepared to change the way your ways, as far as your side in an existing wrong or dispute goes. They'll be like, oh, we're a business, can't we throw them a, can't, well, it'll make them happy if we just do this for them. Like, no. They don't comprehend. You do not want to do trade with them. You do not want to know them. That's what I noticed. The either or, like, are they for or against us? It's a dichotomy that people celebrated after the 16th century during the Age of Enlightenment in philosophy. They celebrated the concept known as the suspension of judgment, which is where, you stand back and go, no, I'm not choosing one way or the other. It's like I don't seem to get fined for not voting, but I can give very good reasons why I don't vote when I could. And that it essentially boils down to wanting to call the politicians on their promises for implementing any sort of change. It's like, if you convince me your professional existence is relevant in some way, I'll vote for which one of you I think is actually going to work toward that end. But if you're just going to be, if you're going to even have like Peter Garrett from Midnight Oil wanting to quit politics and say that you're all a bunch of liars, then I'll just go, well, that's exactly what I thought from the start, Peter Garrett. So I just won't vote now. But yeah, Roger Gary's mind, I reckon it also works on the idea of, if we've really wronged them and admitted that we've wronged them, then can't we just make it up? Can't we just give something to them? Can't we do something? We're fucking capital chemists, and we collect money for Eden Monero cancer support. Can't we do, like they don't actually comprehend. Get the fuck away. Get the fucking fuck away. Especially Roger, and I don't know why. What's his theory? He sounds like his balls never properly dropped. He talks like he's the kid that maybe thought, I'll study hard in school so I can succeed later in life, but then when I succeed later in life, I'll become the bully, and I'll have a whole company then, so I'll be so tough. And he's actually too thick to comprehend, oh, this person actually never wants to even see me or think or hear the sound of my voice for the rest of his life. Can't we make it up to him? Can't we build a bridge? Can't we give a gift? Can't we do this? Can't we do that? No. The first thing is fuck off forever. Lawyers, you can talk to the lawyer. That's a fucking idiot. Anyway, I don't care very much. Well, that doesn't mean I'm going to blow up capital chemists. I understand what the Age of Enlightenment was about to some extent. The 16th century Freemasons probably don't. They're a bit like the Muslims in that regard. Both the Freemason church and the Muslims lacked the intuitions that the majority of thinking people gathered during the Age of Enlightenment. So you'll tell from the way they frame questions and try to comprehend issues. It's like, whoa, you don't think about human rights at all. Go back to the 16th century, faggots. Faggots. America's only one country I've talked to about you. Only one. There's a whole planet. So if I'm right, Roger will continue. He'll persist rather than say, well, I suppose if the prosecuting is limited to directly the persons directly concerned, then I have a chance as the man who started Capital Chemist to do something that is safekeeping of the professionalism of the pharmacists I have employed now. Instead he'll be that measly and weak that he'll drag his whole company's credibility into the fight because he's just that pathetic. So he'll bring the drama on himself, and then he'll commit a certain number of crimes, personally do a certain number of wrongs, affect a certain number of wrongs, and then he'll want his whole company to saturate and dilute the consequences amongst themselves. So it's as if you could imagine him going in to pharmacists that I've never met and have nothing to do with my differences with Roger. And you can imagine him walking up to them going, how could you treat Luke that way? How could you treat Luke that way? And I'd be like, we've never met Luke. Like, I can actually see him doing that rather than, even have a sense of a gentleman's ethic when called out on error. He won't even have that. That's why I think in school he probably must have studied and laughed at the bullies, but then figured he could be like one. He'd get his chance to be one when he built a company. But then he never learnt what I suppose even the bullies in high schools learn when they get sick of bullying in high school. They'll learn valuable life. They all tend to learn valuable life lessons that I don't think to this day Roger Tall's even thought of now. It's sort of probably sucking off a Freemason because their church was the right one all along. The world just it's the world's fault. The world hasn't shown them the proper respect they deserve. That's why everybody needs their capital chemist. Who'd pick that for a slogan for like if you get sick, we're here for you. Everybody, everyone. Sig Heil. In uns in everybody in capital. Roger Tall is soon to go through puberty. His voice and esophagus might drop as hormones produce and he's able to gain erections, masturbate. His wife's hoping his voice truly drops soon. Because men that talk like pedophiles, it's strange when you see them running a pharmacy franchise. He obviously snakes off the credibility that more humane people demonstrate on the business's behalf through their service. But when Roger does go through puberty, we're cheering him on. He might get to finger a girl. He might get to have, more mature experiences. And it might change the way he speaks in the workplace. So puberty is something that, you'll tell from Roger's voice. He sounds like one of the last of the whinging pommy. Rolf Harris just did what he had to do. A party of fucking research idiots. His researching methods are shit. His profiles are shit. If he was peer-reviewed ever, his profiles were peer-reviewed, they'd probably be falsified immediately by the peer that peer-reviewed them. And the peer that peer-reviewed them would say, fuck, why can't your voice fucking drop before you profile anything, you fucking retard? And finger a fucking woman, you fucking faggot. Quit researching people that have no interest in you. Fucking dickhead, prepubescent fucking voice of a fucking faggot. Come here, Roger. It is actually also one reason that Roger Tall himself is fascinated with stipulating that a person is more or less eternally damned and doomed due to childhood conflicts. Roger will say this and try and teach this to some extent, but once again, all you have to do is point the finger back at him and say, but when is your voice dropping, Roger, you faggot? And he'll turn to Gary Cairns, but Gary Cairns will have his penis shaft in the anus of a sheep on the grasslands of the nearest Freemason temple. And we're going, oh, love, ma, ma, ma. And then you'll go back to Roger and say, well, Roger, if your voice does drop and maybe you study more, a wider scope and variety of psychoanalysts, maybe you'll come up with better profiles than, oh, this person is insane because of video. And then if your voice dropped, the pretty women you do see on video talking to men whose voices have also dropped, they'll say, come along, Roger, like, go through puberty. We'll help you get through, okay? All these people, we've had enough. You're telling mature adults there that they're fucked in the head due to childhood conflicts, and your voice sounds like a kid I picked on who was 10, under the age of 10. You fucking talk just like him in Fadden Primary School in the mid-90s, and you still talk like him now. I don't know what it is. Did you grow up dreaming of fingering the Queen Elizabeth II one day and you just that meant accepting her religion. So then you were all into the incest Garden of Eden thing, and then you were thinking of incest so long that your puberty, the age for adolescence, dawned on you, and your voice just couldn't drop, because you were too busy thinking of impressing Queen Elizabeth II with tales of incest in the garden. With additional estimations and awareness of the sort of conscience that Roger and Gary have as people, it's interesting that they were even worse than pharmacists would warn. But if capital chemists need to be internationally recognised as criminal and then recognised within the Australian community as criminal, I will be the one to bring that story to its full fruition. I wish I was making this shit up. There has to be some adequate reason, because it accounts for a lot in your social life. If you're calm, your voice is relaxed because you're calm and you're enjoying yourself. Men's voices do tend to deepen as with age, and Rogers is stuck at the... I remember going to a disco at Fathom Primary, and there was a kid who annoyed me. He was my age, and I threw him into the disco hall wall. I apologized to him later, but and then I learned a lot more patience, because I thought, well, that was just an irrational move. But yeah, Roger, the way Roger talks reminds me of that kid. But like, Roger really deserves to be. It's like he's saying, "Throw me in the fucking wall, throw me to the wall, throw me to the wall, throw me to the wall. I'm this much of a crim, this much of a crim, this much of a crim." It's pathetic, because, the criminal things he does, and then he'll try to say if you work for him, your hard-earned freedoms are the fact that he turns a blind eye when you you have access to drugs and substances, even though you're taught about their utility, and they arguably constitute your right to health in accordance with. So it's like he's trying to say, I've given you the Human Rights Act. No, you haven't. You've given me the. You're annoying. You're as annoying as these Christians I debated online, and it's weird. I would think you would want to be away from the business of ever profiling anybody with that undropped voice of yours. It's sickening. Your crackpot theories about why people go insane. Why can't your voice break and you learn what it feels like to talk with a deep male voice in a community of women and enjoy their company? Instead, you sound like this whinging pommy faggot. What were you doing when adolescence kicked in? You were staring at photos of Queen and her incest religion, and and your Tasmanian mum, weren't you, Roger? And then you thought, I need to get away from all this, because if it comes out like... But the only thing you couldn't change was the fact that your voice still sounds to this day like it never dropped. And you don't want people reading into that and working out what went on in Tasmania before you came to the mainland here to build a pharmacy. You really wouldn't like that at all. So quickly get into the profiling business, because then no one will ever profile you, because it's your job and your duty, and the Mason Church has called you to this holy duty. Yeah, your company will be internationally and nationally here in Australia recognized as criminally run, criminally managed. And I'll write the book about it. You work on that drop voice, Roger. It is depressing, because in 2018 I was thinking, well, he knows what he has to do to beat the fuck out of my life, so if Roger recognizes his error, apologizes, and steps up to get charged for the things that he'll get charged for, that I have to get him charged for, then there'll be no need for me to mention Capital Chemist as criminally owned in the limelight, which I have every right to do, because I had to work for them for, on threat of being put onto the Mental Health Act if I wasn't an employee for them, which I know is a criminal in and of itself. So there's plenty for me to report. And the option I was giving him last year was, well, Capital Chemist as a franchise will have no mention in the press, no mention internationally in the press, and no mention in the press in Australia. If you and Gary get the fuck away from me, get charged for what you're getting charged for, and do not address me or contact me or have any involvement with my life whatsoever. Continue any involvement with my life whatsoever, and your whole company, it goes all everywhere. Every fucking person in the country gets everything fucking on the public arena. I'll do it. I'll stand up in a Capital Chemist uniform, hold my dick out and read every fucking crime you've practiced. I don't have a problem doing that. So it was your loss that you didn't know when to back off 2018. You can even sort of see the elements in Roger's Freemason religion, where they are into talking about how Lucifer destroys God. And maybe, you know, in the cartoons, God always has a deep voice, and so Roger would enjoy that story of Lucifer being superior to the Christian God. I would say he's more moral, more morally responsible. That any shakes up God's system, and I admired that in the stories, but that doesn't mean I believe in their actual existence, or that I would attend and edify a church built around theologizing about these supernatural entities. So yeah, you can see it, you know, Roger's voice not breaking. God with God's deep voice in the cartoons, and it pisses him off. If you're a man and your voice is deep and it'll piss Roger off, he'll think you've done something. You must have done something wrong. That's what I think. He was too young. He didn't know that at that age, the way he approached his mum was inappropriate or something. Must have been around his puberty. His behavioural theories are so fucking whacked. He truly believes in them the way I know he does. I say he did something in Tasmania during his upbringing. Something involving his mum.